Okay, nice to see you again. Good to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So you sent me a couple seemingly inflammatory articles,
Huh.
no pun intended, which were they all have headlines. I'm not going to read them off right now, but that's something along the lines of, oh, what?
Vitamins don't work for heart disease.
Yeah, vitamins are another study proves
Yes,
vitamins are
another study
totally
proves,
useless.
or don't waste your money on
Yeah,
supplements, doesn't help. And
right,
so if you don't dig deep, right, you say, oh, I'm not going to waste my money. Another study proves. But then you dig deep and you find that that's not the case, and there's a lot of problems. And that's why I thought this
right.
would be an interesting thing to talk about.
Right, right. Well, you and I mean, that's the service that we're providing here. Most people don't have the time to dig deep,
Right.
but this is our business. So
Right. So here's the bottom line, okay?
hmm
Vitamins, what we call vitamins, or let's say dietary supplements, compose what we like to call the mighty 90 essential nutrients, right? Vitamins, minerals, amino acids, essential fatty acids. These are not optional. Your system, the body as a system, cannot be healthy without these 90 essential nutrients. The reason people don't, that's not as clear cut, and people will, some
hmm
people will fall for this idea that, oh, you don't need a supplement, and oh, you don't have to worry, get everything you need from food, is because the window between uh, blatant deficiency, ultimately death if you're deficient
mm
enough,
mm
and optimum health is really large.
mm
It's a
mm
large window. So you don't have to be, you could be, you could be somewhere here in the middle of the
Yeah,
window,
yeah.
just getting barely enough
mm
with, like, say, a multivitamin, or with a poor standard American,
mm
a poor quality standard American diet. You could be getting, like, you may not be blatantly deficient or near death because you're deficient. You may be over here somewhere, and that just means your body won't work as well.
mm
It means your heart won't work as well. It means your immune system won't function as well. Your skin won't work as well as it could if you were somewhere here on this side of the window. Does that make sense?
It makes
It's like
perfect sense.
the window's so large that people think,
mm
well, I'm okay.
mm
And they don't necessarily notice that their vitamin C deficiency is causing problems.
Yeah.
But we know that when you take vitamin C out of the diet,
mm
we know if you completely eliminate it from the diet,
You end up with
your
scurvy.
collagen will break down. You can't
mm
make collagen. We know that the blood vessels, in the case of heart disease, are made of collagen. So
mm
we know that if you remove vitamin C from the diet entirely, the blood vessels, the collagen in your blood, the connective tissue, I should say, in the blood vessels will not build. It'll deteriorate. It'll break down. Now, ultimately, you'll die from it. Ultimately, you'll hemorrhage to death. But you don't have to be that far over in order to suffer problems. For example, if you're not, say you're somewhere over here, your connective tissue may not completely deteriorate to the point where you hemorrhage to death,
Right.
but it may get weak,
mm
and it may develop little holes, little nicks, little cuts, little scab, little
Yeah.
wounds.
Yeah.
And then the body will come and patch up the wounds
mm
in order to protect that weakened area against the pressure of blood. It'll protect that area. It'll protect that little wound. And it's caused by a vitamin C, not blatant deficiency to where you have zero and you have scurvy, where your blood vessels explode and you hemorrhage to death, but over here somewhere where your blood vessels are a little bit weak. And so the body will protect itself by putting calcium and cholesterol, and it will form a plaque, which is like a scab in that area. Now, sometimes the scab can break off and cause problems. This is true, but the idea that you're going to rob the body of the materials that are required to make the scab and somehow get healthier for it is idiotic.
mm
You see what I'm saying? You're not a chemist, you're not a doctor, but doesn't it sound like a layperson crazy to you that if the area is weak and the body's creating a scab with calcium and cholesterol and other goopy fibers and materials that it uses to create a scab with, and basically that's what it is, it's a scab. Does it make sense to you that we're going to cut the body off from its scab making material in order to get healthier?
Of course not.
Right, of course not. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
But it underlies the distinction, that really a very important distinction we don't make, that it really robs us of health, and that is the distinction between biochemistry and clinical chemistry. Did you ever, do you know what I'm talking about here? Have you ever thought of that distinction between biochemistry and clinical chemistry? Most people haven't. When we go to the doctor, we get measured based on clinical chemistry, which is the chemistry of lab tests, the chemistry of your HDL and your LDL and your blood glucose. And this chemistry, this thing called clinical chemistry, is not really science. It's statistics. It's risk management.
Right.
What they do is they assess how many people out of 1,000 people, how many people get sick or die or have some kind of pathology when they reach a certain percentage, and they crunch a bunch of numbers, and they say raises the risk by this percent, lowers the risk by that percent. It's statistical. Yeah. And the thing about statistics is it's based on large numbers. It's not about the individual. Right. You follow me? We're individual beings. The statistics aren't relevant for individual beings, but we get tricked. Yeah. We get deceived by companies because, you see, they can't prove things biochemically. They can only prove things statistically, because from a biochemical standpoint, what causes heart disease, in the case of heart disease, for example, is not, it's not the criteria they're using is not applicable from a biochemical standpoint to getting better. The criteria they're using is lowering cholesterol. Well, we know that lowering cholesterol, for example, sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. So we know that it's not really a cut and dry thing. It's not like this happens. In biochemistry, it's cut and dry. Things happen in biochemistry. There's ways things work in biochemistry. There's no room for judgment. In statistics, there's room for judgment.
There's room for bias as well.
There's room for bias. There's room for opinion. There's room for interpretation. In biochemistry, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. So when we get assessed clinically in the doctor's office, we get assessed with a level of less than accuracy, a level of inaccuracy, a level of room for error. If we get assessed biochemically, if you want to be healthy, go to a biochemist and figure out where the pathways are and what's happening from a biochemical standpoint, and then manipulate yourself biochemically. And when you understand that we're a biochemical being, you'll say, well, why would I poison myself with a drug? If you say, oh, it will lower your risk by 2% or it lowers your risk by 3%, you fall for the statistics, and you say, okay, I'm going to take a statin drug because it lowers my risk for heart disease. But if you see what's happening biochemically and you try and reverse engineer the disease process, say in the case of heart disease biochemically, you'll see that the disease is caused by heart disease is caused by the same thing that causes all disease, and that's a breakdown somewhere in the chemistry. The chemistry is not proceeding as it should because things are missing. It's as simple as that. And heart disease is I call heart disease, or I call arthritis, I call heart disease arthritis. Because it's arthritis of the heart. Alzheimer's disease is arthritis of the brain. I use arthritis because that's kind of a thing we all recognize. We all know it's deterioration of the joints, right? Right. What are the joints? What are the joints really? They're connective tissue. The body is made up, it is held together by connective tissue, and the vast majority of the symptoms of aging and disease are deterioration of connective tissue. And that's basically the breakdown in the body. The connective tissue is wrapped up in the muscle. It's kind of meshed together. And between the connective tissue and the muscle, you have about 80% of the body. The rest is like a candy coating and nervous tissue. The four tissues are connective tissue, muscle tissue, nervous tissue, which is electrical tissue, and epithelial tissue, they call it, which is coating. But the bulk of the body, which is the stuff you see when you go to the bodies exhibit.
Well, one of the things that occurred to me about this study is that they're looking at a small set of nutrients, and they're applying it to a small set of conditions, which were all cardiovascular conditions. Yes. And none of the nutrients that they were recommending was what I would necessarily think we would recommend. I mean, usually we push essential fatty acids and things like that.
They didn't mention essential fatty acids, but here's the thing: it's an epidemiological study. So how does epidemiological studies work? These risk managements that lower the risk, raise the risk, kinds of results that come out of epidemiological studies. We got to break down what epidemiology is. It's where they interview people. They ask people what the vitamins they take, and it depends on people's memory. It depends on people's honesty. That's problem number one, because people don't know, and sometimes they feel embarrassed to say things to the investigator. So there's problems with epidemiology.
Did you remember to take it every day? Sure.
Data gathering is problematic. That's first of all. But second of all, then they have to come up with criteria. So they have to pick specific disease states, or they'll have to pick specific symptoms, or they'll have to pick specific vitamins. In this case, they have to pick out specific vitamins. But so here's what they did: they had multivitamins, they had vitamin C, they had calcium, they had vitamin C, calcium, vitamin D. They had an antioxidant blend. They had niacin. But nobody asked, For example, did they take it with meals? Did they take it on an empty stomach? Did they smoke cigarettes? Did they exercise? Did they take it every day? Did they miss days? Nobody.
Also,
a million
the quality of the nutrients isn't brought into the debate at all as well. And one of the things that we know is that if you have something like vitamin E and it's poorly stored or poorly processed, it's oxidizing.
What about vitamin E?
Are we talking about vitamin E that sat on someone's shelf for 6 years?
All of that. There's no way to know.
Yeah.
There's no way to know. These are just for the individual. These studies are irrelevant. And here's the thing: the headline said vitamins don't work and don't waste your money. Blah blah blah. So these were the 3 results they came up with. Okay, this whole study, and it was a meta study. It was a study of studies, right? Yeah. So there were 3 results. The number one result was, and this is where the headlines came from, people who took a multivitamin, vitamin D, vitamin C, calcium, and I think that was it. There were 4 of them. Multivitamin, vitamin D, vitamin C, and calcium, they had no benefit. What's a multivitamin? How much, what was the percentage of nutrients in the multivitamin? Was it RDA? Was it less than RDA? Nobody knows. What is a multivitamin? How could you possibly come up with a conclusion?
There's some very poor quality multivitamins out there that I would recommend not to take. Get that out of your cabinet.
Okay, so the second point was the B vitamins worked.
Yeah.
They got significant benefits.
Folic acid and B vitamins dramatically reduce the chances that you have a stroke, and folic acid dramatically reduce the chances that you have a cardiovascular event. Now, why was the title "Multivitamins Don't Work"? It could have just as well been, a stunning study proves value of taking.
It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter because we know the B vitamins work. We know, and I don't want to. Let's get to the third one, then we'll get to this other point that I want to make about supplements. The third point was very interesting to me. It said an antioxidant blend, which was like a combination of selenium and beta carotene, a few things, an antioxidant blend taken with niacin and a statin drug together. Niacin and a statin drug.
Yeah.
They found actually something very interesting. They found increased mortality. They call it all-cause mortality. So what's niacin? What is niacin? Niacin is a potent cholesterol-lowering drug. It's just as potent as, maybe more potent than statin drugs.
Right.
And then they give statin drug. So how do we know it wasn't the statin drug?
Yeah.
How do we know it wasn't that the cholesterol got too low for people? And that's if you even believe the study. So nobody talks about that. They blame the vitamins, but nobody thought about the statin drug.
What you're providing there is the biochemical description of what's going on. You're saying, well, what's going to happen? Duh. If you're on a powerful drug,
cholesterol-lowering drug plus a powerful nutritional supplement taken by itself, by the way, out of context with the rest of the B vitamins.
Right.
I don't pay attention. This is not a study to pay attention to, but there's something really significant that goes under the radar. It's kind of a meta fact among all the basic facts. There's this transcendent fact to all of this stuff, and that is the idea that you could make an assessment on the value of nutrients by testing them the way you test drugs. So when they test drugs, they have these measurements that they use. Lowers cholesterol, reduces heart disease risk, changes the markers somehow in the body. And then it improves the prognosis of a disease. That's how they measure drugs. But nutrients don't work that way. Nutrients don't go to specific areas of the body. They help the body as a whole get stronger. So you can't, I call it this for that. You can't think of nutrients, we call the Mighty 90 essential nutrients, supplements, as used to treat specific diseases like you do drugs. That's not how they work. They work by making the body stronger. They work by making the body more resilient. They work by making all the parts of the body work better as a whole. Yes, you'll get benefits for the heart, you'll get benefits for the liver, you'll get benefits for the digestive system, but you can't say, I'm going to take this vitamin for this condition. I have this condition, so I'm going to take this vitamin. That's a drug mentality. That's called allopathic nutrition. Allopathy or allopathy means against disease, as opposed to homeopathy, which means the same as disease. Allopathy is when you have a disease and you take a supplement against, or a drug against it. That's not how nutrients work. Nutrients support the integrity and the health of the body. They're not optional. Now, as I say,
right.
you can get away with getting them from food. You can get a bare minimum if you get them from food, but you're not going to get enough. You're going to leave health on the table. Yes, you'll be here. If the window is here where disease is all the way over here, and 100% maximum health is over here, there's a window. You can do well, and you can do well and less well and less well and less well. You're not going to drop dead immediately, but you're going to be operating on 7 cylinders instead of 8, or on 3 cylinders instead of 4. You're going to be operating somehow less than peak efficiency. You're going to leave health on the table. And that's the whole idea here, is that if you don't add to a supplement, which means add to, if you don't supplement with your diet with nutrients that should be in the food, you're not going to be able to be maximally healthy from a nutritional standpoint. Now, of course, there's other elements. There's mental health issues, and there's psychological health issues, and spiritual health and emotional health. Those need to be addressed. But from a physical perspective, these are not optional. And whether you take them supplementally or whether you take them with food, you're going to get them, but you're just not going to get them maximally. And tissue is going to be affected. Now, when it comes to heart disease, yes, there's nutrients that are good for the heart, but you don't want to look at it as I'm going to take magnesium for my heart, or I'm going to take coenzyme Q10 for my heart. You want to look at it like my entire body benefits from magnesium. Magnesium affects every system in the body. It affects my blood sugar system. It affects the building of connective tissue. It affects detoxification. It affects digestive health. It affects thyroid health. It affects all of these multiple systems in the body that will all work together to make your heart more stronger. As far as heart disease goes, specifically, which kills 600,000+ people a year, leading cause of death, has been for many years. It's a serious problem. There's lots of things you could do, but you have to understand what causes heart disease. What causes heart disease is a deterioration of the body, specifically the connective tissue. It's arthritis. It's the same as any other disease that we have, or the vast majority of diseases. It's a deterioration of the body. So you know what you have to do, Jonty, for your heart? Don't worry about the cholesterol. That's irrelevant. What you want to do is you want to build your body. You want to be a bodybuilder. And there's many ways to do it, to be a bodybuilder. In the case of the heart, I can tell you the science of it. It's the connective tissue is breaking down in the blood vessels, but guess what? The connective tissue is also breaking down in your joints. The connective tissue is breaking down in your viscera, in your fascia. The connective tissue is breaking down in your bones. So you're going to be dealing with weaker bones. You're going to be dealing with ruptures. You're going to be dealing with hernias. You're going to be dealing with wrinkles, wrinkled skin. You're going to be dealing with all of the ways connected to arthritis, all the ways that connective tissue deteroration manifests.
Well, you know,
the good news is once you do this, all these other things will improve.
Right.
The arthritis will improve. You'll have a stronger fascia. You'll be able to move your body more effectively. You won't have the neuropathies and the pain. Almost every single health challenge we have comes from a deterioration of the body, specifically the connective tissue. Build the connective tissue.
I found it interesting that we actually have a lot of support. If you scroll down to the bottom of those seemingly inflammatory articles and read the comments, especially on the Discovery article, they were all absolutely, they were just scathing about what that article had said and done. They tore the article a new one. I can't
mislead people.
They would be strong allies of us, no doubt, and some of them very intelligent and articulate and well researched.
Comments from readers.
There was somebody from Norway who made some sort of a comment that was a little tongue-in-cheek. He said, well, in our country, our government pays for our health care, so we're trying to get the costs down. And so we've done some studies to try to actually figure out how to prevent heart disease. And one of the things that they recommend on a sort of state level is, from their various findings, is magnesium as a supplement being vital to heart health. So
incredibly important. It's incredibly important. If you have a heart attack, they'll put it right in your blood. They'll inject that, keep it in emergency rooms. Magnesium is kept in emergency rooms for heart attack patients. Magnesium is incredibly important. Do you take magnesium for your heart, specifically for your heart? No, you don't want to think about it that way. You take magnesium
as well.
It's part of the mighty 90 essential nutrients that you need. The best sources of magnesium in nature are greens. And magnesium is green in color. So wherever you have green, you basically have magnesium, and people don't eat their greens. People don't eat vegetables. Folic acid is another one. Folic acid or folate is found in foliage, if people don't eat foliage. The B complex is unspeakably important for the heart, but it's important for everything. The B complex helps the body, cells of the body specifically, manufacture energy, produce energy.
It takes about an hour to become a fan of B vitamins. If you take a good B vitamin complex supplement and you're in any way self-aware, it's going to take you about an hour to realize what a great thing they are.
Absolutely, to notice it. And the more deficient you are, the faster you notice it. You notice the B complex. You notice the electrolytes, same thing. Both the B vitamins and the electrolytes help energy, are important for energy production at the level of the cell. You've heard of the mitochondria, right? The mitochondria are like run by the B vitamins and electrolytes facilitate all of that. So this is the job of the vitamins in general. The vitamins help chemistry, facilitate chemistry. They help chemical reactions move appropriately. Chemistry is all A going to B, going to C, going to D. We get all freaked out about chemistry. It's very simple stuff, really. I shouldn't say simple. The concepts are simple. The specifics are complicated for sure, but the concept is simple. It's basically Tinker Toys. It's like Tinker Toy shapes changing. A to B to C to D to E. It's all just Tinker Toys. And this body is doing it. What makes it so amazing and complex and really mind-blowing is it's happening trillions upon quadrillions upon femtillions, whatever illions you want to name, zillions of times a second. The shapes are changing, and that's what makes it so mind-boggling that we don't have to think about it. But here's what's cool. What we call the mighty 9 essential nutrients, especially the vitamins and the minerals, and to a certain extent the essential fatty acids and the essential amino acids, their job is to facilitate A going to B, going to C, going to D, going to E, to go to F, et cetera, et cetera. Without those mighty 9 essential nutrients, that doesn't happen. Now, we're always going to get a little bit of them. We're always going to get some, so it's always going to happen. But if you took them out dropped them to zero level, nothing would happen. Nothing would work. And that's where, obviously, well, we die way before that happens, but that's what happens as you have less and less. The body works less and less well until you reach critical mass and you're dead. And that's why what we call the essential nutrients are not optional. If you don't have them, you die. They're like air. If you don't have it, you're dead. Again, keeping in mind the therapeutic window is very large, and most people are going to get some of these things.
And you want them in balance. This whole idea about, let's test giving somebody just one nutrient and let's see what effect it has on just one disease.
That's right.
It's bizarre. It doesn't. That's not going to work.
This for that. That's where the this for that mentality comes from. And sometimes I'll get calls on the radio or people ask me, what do I take for this? I have heart disease. What do I take? I have arthritis. What do I take? And I always have to tell people, you don't want to think about it that way. Yes, there are nutrients that will kind of help the joints work better, the heart work better, but the body works as a system. And the nutrients come in as a system. That's why there's supplements, by the way. Supplements means you add to. You supplement your diet. The food is the best. Food is where you want to get your nutrients from. There's no doubt about it. The problem is because of the way our soils are and farming and the use of pesticides and fertilizers, all of these processing and cooking and shipping and storing, all of these things conspire to reduce the micronutrient or the mighty 9 essential nutrient value of foods. So you can't really do it that way. So yes, eat your foods and eat quality foods and don't eat a lot of foods and supplement your diet. And don't pay any attention to any studies that tell you that this doesn't work. We tested 1,000 people and we found that multiple vitamins don't work, vitamin D supplements don't work, vitamin C doesn't work. That's not the point. There's no arguing the fact that your body doesn't run as well without these, and it runs better with these. That's biochemistry. That's not epidemiology. Go by biochemistry. Go by how your body works, not statistics.
There's another thing that I found interesting about. Well, you mentioned ways that your body can end up with not enough of the mighty 90 nutrients. One of the things that depletes your body is drinking something like Pepsi or Coca-Cola. That's going to happen.
Jonty, drinking water depletes you. Drinking water, and everybody's drinking water now. Well, drinking water causes you to urinate out your B vitamins and your electrolytes,
Right, sure.
the very nutrients we just talked about that energize the system. If you're drinking more water, you're going to lose those. So the more water you drink, the more important it is to do your Beyond Tangy Tangerine.
There's a reason I brought that up, though, Ben, which is that when I looked up the lead researcher on that meta-analysis, I looked at a list of his financial interests, and it seems that he's had several. It seems like he's got substantial financial grants and such things from Coca-Cola and Pepsi has flown him out places to have him do presentations and things like that. There's a lot of ways that bias can be introduced into something. Sometimes people aren't even aware that they're biased. They just happen to get a large check from a certain set of companies.
Easily. I pay no attention to epidemiological studies. They're not relevant for individual biochemistry. Go by the biochemistry. Don't be intimidated because it's not that complicated.
Right.
Make sure you're on a supplement program and following all the things we talk about. We talk about for years. How you live your life, your digestive system, the foods you eat less foods, ketogenic diet. Make sure you're on a supplement program. Exercise your body. Relax, meditate, deep breathe, lower your blood sugar. I mean, all of these things, all of these strategies are simple things we can do from the comfort of our own homes. And that, to me, is the most important idea. This is an empowering message because it says that we can take care of our bodies, we can take care of our hearts, we can take care of our immune systems, we can take care of our skins without being medicalized.
Right.
There's in order to take care of this stuff, the general deterioration of the body that occurs somewhat inevitably, but faster than it needs to occur, is not a medical issue. It's a lifestyle issue, and it's something that we can all. And supplementation is key.
There's another way I'd like people to empower themselves, which is if you see somebody citing a study and telling you what the study says, if you got the time, read the study and see what the study actually says.
But that's easier said than done. But at least do some research and see what the study says, not what somebody not the mainstream interpretation. And you know what, Jonty? I have a degree in journalism. I don't know if you know that. As somebody who has a degree in journalism, let me tell you something. Beware of headlines. Don't fall for headlines. It's like clickbait. You know what clickbait is? You heard the term clickbait?
I know it all too well. Absolutely.
Okay. Headlines are clickbait.
For sure. The headline's trying to get your attention, and it usually doesn't have a lot to do with the article. The article is based on some form of journalistic standard, which may or may not be that high. But I mentioned there was a particular study that this meta-analysis on vitamins and heart disease cited. He cited it as a reason why. It was a very strange sentence. He cited it as the reason why we might not want to run too many studies on folic acid because it might cause cancer. Because look, there's this other study here. And this other study was one I'd actually seen before because of a BBC article on the same ridiculous topic from 2016. My wife drew my attention to the other day. They cited saying selenium, the BBC, which used to be this paragon of journalism, right? You used to study the BBC to see how journalism was done. Not so much anymore. They say that the study proved that selenium and vitamin E caused a 17% increase in prostate cancer. That's not what the study said. The study actually said that what the study said was, and if you think about it for a second, it's not very conclusive, and the study seems to have a glaring flaw because the study had 4 groups. They had a control group. They had a selenium-only group. They had a selenium and vitamin E group, and they had a vitamin E-only group.
Okay.
The vitamin E-only group had a 17% increase in prostate cancer. Now, prostate cancer is, if you just look at the sampling size, there's 35,000 people in the study, and it was somewhere around 1,500 of them got prostate cancer. So it's and then also they're relying on, it's a bit dubious, okay, at the onset. They're a little bit relying on people to actually notice that they have prostate cancer, a variety of other things. But if you just think about it, vitamin E and selenium, no statistical difference. Selenium, no statistical difference. Vitamin E only, apparently a statistical difference.
Okay.
And the BBC was citing this as evidence that both selenium and vitamin E cause an increase in prostate cancer.
That's a classic example. You cannot go by these types of studies. You have to go by the biochemistry, and that's why I always say, if you're sick, see a biochemist. If you want to understand how your body works, if there's a pathology of some kind, you want to deconstruct, you want to figure it out, go to a biochemist. You want to stay healthy, understand biochemistry. It's not about clinical chemistry. It's not about test scores. Your test scores are irrelevant for you as a person. They're only relevant for large groups of people. Now, if you're like way over the top extreme, there's something going on. But for the most part, for most people, whether you're up 100 points or 50 points or 10 points, a small amount, depending on what you're measuring, is not as important as how your body is running. The biochemistry of your body. Don't let them drug. If you feel good, don't let them drug you prophylactically, preventatively, because they know it lowers your risk by 1 or 2%. That's called preventative medicine.
Is it me, or does this whole medicine by statistics sound very much like something that the insurance industry would be in favor of? Doesn't that come right out of their playbook? I mean, isn't that how they make a profit?
They're the ones who set their part. They're involved in the setting of the numbers.
It's their business model.
They're involved in setting the numbers. This is actuarials we're talking about here. This is based on actuarials. It's for insurance purposes. That's a huge part of it. Absolutely.
Right.
You know, and they're in cahoots with the drug companies. It's all the medical model doesn't encompass just doctors. It encompasses hospital, and these are corporations, huge corporations, by the way. Your doctor is, for the most part, your doctor is not your friendly little, neighborhood guy with the bag who used to come knocking on the doors.
It used to be.
Dr. Hibbert,
it's kind of interesting to see. I saw a chart on who pays for medicine in the U.S. and it went from the end user, the patient.
Right.
It was about close to 100 years ago. It went from basically 100% the patient to now the patient pays still, way more than we can afford, but it's insurance and government that covers
the doctor works. Now they have these HMOs where the doctor works for the insurance company. He doesn't work for you. He's an employee of Kaiser.
Right.
He's an employee of the whatever hospital he's working at. They have him set up and they pay him a salary, and he just sees people all day. And he has to work from a formulary, and he has to follow specific protocols. He's not working for you. In the old days, the doctor used to work for you. Now the doctor works for the insurance company. So, there's all of these scams, but the bottom line is we have so much more control over our bodies.
Yeah.
All of these things that we can do for ourselves. And you know what? If you want to do one thing, work on your gut. Work on your gut. There's a major connection, by the way, between bile, the digestive system, and bile, and the liver and heart disease that nobody's talking about. And that's something else. You focus on your liver, focus on your digestive system. You want to do one thing, just one thing only, focus on gut health. Eliminate problem foods. Eliminate gluten.
Yeah.
Get on a probiotic supplement. I mean, there's lots of things you could do, but focus on the gut if you want to do one thing.
Right. We support ourselves by selling nutritional supplements. That's part of our business model. But we're not screaming down people's throat, you absolutely have to take nutritional supplements or you're wasting your time listening to us. That's not what we're saying.
There's lots of things.
Tons of things that you can do before you get to that point.
Meditation. Sit still. Relax your body. Take hot baths. Get massages.
Get some sauerkraut.
There's lots of things you could do. Yeah, what longevity does though is it simplifies supplementation. I love the chemistry of it, and I've been a nutritionist now for decades, so I have a feel for it. But if you don't feel like doing that, if you don't feel like participating in that way, longevity makes it very simple. I encourage people to participate. The more you participate, the more savvy you are, the better you're going to be able to leverage these ideas, leverage these things like nutritional supplements and dietary strategies. But if you don't feel like doing it, longevity makes it simple. There's packs. You get them every month. You know the company. It's reliable. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to working with longevity, aside from the fact that it's a business model and you can make medicine and you can make money. Aside from that, there's the whole money-making aspect of it, the business aspect of it, which is very valuable because you're helping other people.
Right.
You're learning, and then you help other people. You're benefiting, and you're paying it forward. Yeah. There's a lot of things associated with it from a business standpoint that are advantageous. But even if you don't want to do that, just get your supplements once a month. It comes right to your door. You're getting the balance is correct. There's a lot of advantages to using the longevity supplements. But
they're high quality. They're well produced. They're not dangerous. They're not made in some in China and shipped over here in some crate that barely made it. It's
it's a reliable company. It's been around for a lot of years. It's
about 20 years.
nutritional supplements. So there's a lot of advantages to doing it through longevity, and I've been part of longevity for 20 years for 20 years now. So I'm definitely a big believer in the longevity system, the longevity products, but you can put together your own supplement program if you really want to do it. And you don't even need, like you say, there's lots of other things you can do. If you don't want to supplement, I personally think you're crazy if you're not supplementing. That's my opinion. But just lighten up.
Try a
eat less food.
Skip
breakfast, relax, breathe, exercise. There's a lot of ways you can do it. But supplementation is really, really important. If you're not going to do the longevity ones, put together your own supplement if you feel like doing it. And you can do it, but you got to understand what you're doing a little bit.
I just want to make one note about the comparative size of the industries, because I think it's relevant.
The industry versus the drug industry.
It's relevant for people to know a little bit about what's going on here in terms of who's got the really deep pockets. And the supplement industry, it's kind of difficult to get exact numbers because, there's going to be two different people that go and find the number and they find two different numbers. But give or take, the supplement industry in the United States is sitting at around $30 billion total. So that's
like one drug. That's like the profits from one drug.
The domestic pharmaceutical industry is currently, it's easier to find stats on that, is about $450 billion in the U.S.
It's got to be more than that.
It's about $1 trillion in the world. The U.S. medical industry is about $3.1 trillion.
Okay, so the just pharmacy alone is 4.5. What did you say? 450 billion?
Yeah, and they spend as much on advertising.
Oh yeah.
As the entire nutritional supplement business.
Say that again now.
So they spend about $30 billion on advertising, where the nutritional supplement business is $30 billion total, all everything included. And then another thing worth noting is that the pharmaceutical industry also spends about $20 billion domestically on research and clinical trials. So if you're in the business of doing research and clinical trials, you're not courting the supplement industry, hoping that you're going to have a long, successful career and fat pockets. You're going straight to where the money is. You would be shooting yourself in the foot as to start out your career with a bunch of things saying, hey, you really don't need the pharmaceuticals you've been provided. We've just run this study finding this out, isn't that great news? You're done. That's the end of your career, Good luck finding, the research dollars out of the...
That's why you don't see a lot. That's why you really don't read a lot of science on nutritional supplementation, although that is changing. I have to say.
That's true.
People are becoming more hip to nutritional supplementation, and because you can't deny the facts.
Yeah.
And I say the facts are from a biochemical standpoint, not an epidemiological standpoint. From a biochemical standpoint, your body runs on this stuff. And when you add it to a system that doesn't have it, or you add it to a system that has less of it than it needs, you can't help but get results.
It takes a while for something completely rational to take hold. It doesn't always happen overnight, but it's very difficult for an industry or any kind of social construct to suppress what's self-evident.
Well, you know what? That gets to the number one skill that it takes to be a human being. You know what that is? You know what the number one skill that it takes to be an effective human being, I should say.
I'd like to know what your take on that is.
Be a critical thinker. Being a critical thinker, learning to think critically.
Right.
If you don't learn how to think critically, you're not going to be a maximally effective human being. And that's why you always want to go deeper, dig deeper, try to make sense. See, it has to make sense. Question things.
Right.
It has to be logic to you. Does it really make sense when you think about it to take a poison and you'll get better? Or your body will be healthier by somehow poisoning it. Does that make sense, really?
Absolutely not.
That's really just be a critical thinker. Ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
So the bottom line here, Jonty, is we have way more control over our bodies than we think. Don't fall for epidemiological studies. Don't worry about the markers as much as how you feel how are you functioning? Are you thinking clearly? Is your body strong? Are you healing from wounds? Or does your skin look good? Is your posture and your stature solid? Can you get out of a seated position? All of these things that are relevant to how we live our lives. Lowering our cholesterol score is the booby prize. It's how much stamina you have and how much wind you have and how much joie de vivre you have that really counts. And that is never, ever, ever, ever going to improve by taking a prescription drug, with the extent of maybe short-term speed or something like that, which of course in the long run will create a problem. In the short run, antibiotics, maybe you need those. Pain pills, maybe you need those. But for long-term chronic disease states, there's not a single prescription drug that will make your body better. On the other hand, nutrition and nutritional supplements are what drugs dream they could be. We have so much more power over our bodies than we think.
Well said, Ben. I wholeheartedly agree, and that was a very good way to put it. There's a lot of bias out there in the world. We haven't seen the last of these articles. They seem to come out about once every 2 years. And, we invite our audience, when you see something like this, send it to us, if you like, and maybe we can do another one of these. Or just go ahead and actually take a look at the actual study. If you have the time and patience or know somebody that does, because it doesn't always say what the article does. There's sometimes a separation there. So we're here to empower you to see through the bias that exists in our society, as well as provide some advice from the biochemical perspective,
Nice.
as you would say.
Thanks, Jonty.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it.